Yay! Welcome to the Action Zone After Show. In this last year and a half of all virtual events, the upside has been pretty obvious. Just think of how inclusive we were able to be, how much reach we had. But the one thing I know I've really missed is the time at the end, after the official program wraps, when we all sort of mill around the stage and just enjoy it, connecting, reflecting, and committing to memory all the moments of insight and inspiration we know we'll hold on to forever. So that's exactly what we're going to do here with a few of the truly incredible people who brought the 2021 SDG Action Zone to life. Please welcome back Global Head of the SDG Strategy Hub, DAWDA JOBARTEH, and from the Strategy Hub, that small and mighty team you heard about earlier, CHRISTINA, MICHALSKI, and NATHALIE DELORME. Welcome, welcome. How are you guys?
Good.
Feeling excited. So I just got to go around the horn to start. What are you most proud of now that the SDG Action Zone of 2021 is officially wrapped?
Wow. So first of all, I think it is, the SDG Action Zone team that's pulled it all together, and Christian and NADIRA, you're part of this. TVS, you're part of it. We've managed to accomplish so much. I think the caliber of the speakers has been absolutely phenomenal. The substance of what they're talking about, backed by their actions. The speaker analytics and the diversity that we brought to screen, the alignment with regard to our narrative to what's actually really happening beyond these walls. It's just all really, really great. We managed to deliver on the ambition that's set out by the Secretary General and the Deputy Secretary General. And, there were so many connections that were made off screen because of people's involvements and just the willingness of people and speakers to collaborate with us and come together and help lift this. It's been absolutely amazing.
CHRISTINA, what about you? What are you most proud of?
Everything, honestly. I remember where we were when we first started thinking about the SDG Action Zone a few months ago, and this moment right here. And I'm blown away with how well everything has gone. But very specifically, what I appreciated most about these past 3 days were how non-UN it felt. And I mean that in the best way possible, that while the substance of the conversations was still extremely high caliber, it felt like we finally left the UN jargon, the rhetoric, all of these talking points that don't really mean much at the door, and we actually had an honest and authentic conversation. And it made that connection much easier in my mind, that what we're talking about, especially with climate, it's not this abstract thing that's going on far out on the opposite side of the world. That's happening right here. And I think it was Teresa at her spoken word piece at the opening of the day, when she was saying, I don't know how to talk about climate change, but I know what it looks and feels like in my community. There were a lot of moments like that just really touched my soul, and I hope that it did the same for all of the other viewers out there.
And I think it did. NATHALIE, what about you? Proudest of?
I think I'm most proud of and actually very grateful for these unscripted, authentic, and candid conversation each speaker agreed to have here, especially our newer format, these in conversation, with these unexpected and actually intergenerational pairings, which didn't have a lead moderator. And both speakers are really sharing their perspectives and approaching each session with curiosity of others' work and reflecting on how it can be applied to their own. And I think this is really part of the ethos of the SDG Action Zone. It's breaking down silos. Every issue, every challenge, every opportunity that was discussed here during the last 3 days can only be achieved by society as a whole.
It's beautiful. It's like being at a salon or a coffee shop where you just think, I get to sit in on this amazing conversation, and it just made everything feel so connected and so powerful. So 100% agree with you there. DAWDA, this was obviously an undertaking, to say the least. What did you have to overcome to get here? How did you pull it off?
Well, it wasn't I pulled it off. It was we pulled it off. I think there was a whole lot of determination, of radical teamwork, of radical collaboration. So many people touched this project, and each and every one's contribution helped bring it alive and to make it possible. And again, just a huge kudos to those on the other end of the receiving end of this feed, because without you, without your participation, without your questions, without your social media engagement, this wouldn't have all been possible. And one of the things that we paid particular attention to, and we heard it come out throughout the course of the days, is this concept around, defend the defenders, and making sure that activists aren't put at risk because of their words and their conviction and their involvement and engagement in this. And that was a particular concern, especially this year, given what's happening around the world and given the spike in violence towards media, towards activists, towards Indigenous folks standing up for their rights and standing up for people and planet. And it's something that we, in what it is that we did, it was also very, very central in our minds and in our hearts to making sure that we were doing no harm and we were protecting people's conviction and involvement in the work that we were able to bring together and the platform that we were able to create.
And you're being a little modest at it, because I know for the folks out there, it looks like there's probably 1,000 people behind the scenes of this production, but I don't think I've ever worked with a leaner, meaner, more awesome group of folks to make pull something off that is this beautiful and this honest and this authentic. So I've got to just add that little addendum to DAWDA's answer there. I want to go to you, NATHALIE, because representation was a real focus of this program. So talk about why that was so important, what the goals were, and what it took to ensure that we were able to meet them.
Sure. I think we heard many times during this year's SDG Action Zone that inclusion is key to accountability. And I'm actually repeating it now once again. And that only together we can really have the power for real change. Most importantly, we're not just saying it, right? It was at the heart of every step of this project. So to keep inclusivity at the center of our program, we set ourselves a specific representation criteria, in addition to all the other considerations, which we actually completely exceeded with 65% of our speakers who are non-male, 45% that are below the age of 35, 70% that are from the global south. And we had a multitude of sectors ranging from academia, civil society, private sector, media, government, local authorities, the UN, the creative community, activists, and I could just go on. And honestly, there's just no other way. If you want to lead to the lasting transformational change we just kept on talking about, it can only be achieved through the richness of diversity. And I actually think we should have this kind of criteria for everything that we do. And this is one of the reasons why we're here at the end, to democratize and open the space at the UN.
There is no other way. Where can we find those stats? Because I think we need to all be sending those around as a call to action for folks. Will you be sharing them beyond this?
Absolutely, yes. As already mentioned, we have our beautiful website where all the on-demand will be available, as well as our social media channels. All the information will be on our website.
I just have to underscore that because it needs to be shareable. Christina, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I just want to add that while the numbers are great, like I think it's the voices and the perspectives like behind the numbers are what are even more important. So like, yeah, we can post that, I guess. But what I would really encourage everyone to do though is to go through the speaker roster, because I think we were able to give a little bit of the background of each of the speakers, but they are doing some really, really incredible work. And then by going to the speaker roster, you'll be able to see the organizations that they're a part of, and then maybe even join in with that. So just wanted to flag that.
These are true change makers, because they're like, it's not about analytics here, which is really nuts. But it's like, we've got to motivate organizers as much as we motivate the folks who are actually participating in these. And I think as somebody who's been to a lot of these sorts of events, I would be really patting myself on the back if I were you guys, because it is hard. It is hard to get to those numbers that you're talking about, because some of this is so insular that you really have to be deliberate about being inclusive. And kudos to you guys for doing that and more. Actually, Christina, I want to come back to you on that subject of programming as well, because putting together something like the Action Zone is this like balance between really defining and executing an overarching narrative, but then keeping it differentiated and surprising enough to keep us all engaged and learning new things. This is sort of your area in particular. So how'd you tackle that mission, and did we achieve your vision?
You want to know what? I think we did achieve my vision and more. And also, this wasn't just my vision. This was months of going on this profound listening tour of hearing what other partners from businesses, from other entities in the UN system, hearing from the Deputy Secretary General about the challenges and priorities of the world. And then we took this, made this complete picture about what it is the world needs right now. And we tried to take the viewers on a journey about the urgency of the moment. I think gone are the days of these big, bold commitments that are forgotten, fade away a second later. So we wanted to showcase the lack of political will, leadership, and imagination from the top, that it's an action is exasperating these situations. We've heard from this week that we should either step in, step up, and if we're not doing either of those things, then step aside. What I really appreciated from these conversations as well was we wanted to profile not just the top government and business leaders, but actually, as Nathalie said, the people that you might not have heard of just yet from all over the world. And when we were going through this listening tour and hearing from partners, they were telling us some incredible people that I personally never heard of, but now I'm following them on Twitter, and like I'm just going to continue like learning and growing from them. And again, in terms of the narrative, we wanted to showcase how we're moving away from rhetoric and these like big commitments and moving to reality, because in all honesty, time is ticking, and this is the decisive decade of action. And what happens right now, the investments that we make and take today are going to have profound impacts on the choices that my generation and future generations have in years to come. So very excited. And again,
yeah, and you have hope. I mean, I think that was such a big takeaway for so many people this week. People saying, I feel hopeful. I feel hopeful and inspired by this community that you guys have brought together. So it's just bottom line, so true. I could not let us leave today without asking you all for your personal highlight. So what's the 2021 SDG Action Zone moment that'll stay with you forever, a quote you won't forget, or an insight that unlocked something for you? And maybe I'll kick us off by sharing mine, because it's really a compliment to all of you guys. There was a moment in the day one Ask Away where Jay Naidu said, I wish I were 14 again so I could be in the movement. Like, this moment is that exciting. And in my mind, it just flashed a picture of all of you guys and being like, yeah, Jay, I think you're cool enough to join this crew. We'll take it. So that's really the bar that you've set. And it's such a funny thing because we had so many deeply moving moments, but it was amazing to realize that like the community that you've built is that powerful and moves people that much. And everybody wants to be in it with you, which is the point of this entire exercise. So DAWDA, what's your highlight for us?
I mean, NADIRA, you just commented on something that I think is so true about all aspects of this. You know, none of this is being done alone. We all stand on the shoulders of giants to get anything that we're trying to do done, right? I have so many different highlights. I mean, it's you know, Eddie started us off on day one in terms of, you know, saying and quoting that leadership is too important to leave to the leaders. Ernest today talking about WTF. Commented that trickle dynamics, it's the biggest pawn in the world. We know it will never work. Never trickle down to where it did most. You know, Sarah, in terms of, you know, now is the time for radical change. Everybody needs to change their behavior. President Adesina of the African Development Bank, you know, and you cited him in your closing remarks. We need to turn megawatts of words into megawatts of electricity, of renewable electricity. You know, Dr. Agnes needs to drop our logos and our egos, and it being really, really about system change and getting the work done. And if we do not have people and planet at the heart of everything that we're doing, thinking about, creating, structuring, investing in, we're not going to deliver the world that we want and the world that we need and the world that is sort of outlined and exposed in the 2030 agenda, which is radically transformational. And you know, that is the work. We you know, meetings aren't the work. The work happens behind the scenes, and that's what needs to accelerate and really, really you know, it's the DSG constantly says, move the needle, because that's what, you know, we have to impact people's lives. So I just, you know, immensely proud, especially of the radical collaboration of the team, of the opportunity to sort of bring this alive, right? And to what Nathalie said earlier, you know, bring the UN to the world and the world to the UN in a way that is unscripted and authentic and radical and just awesome. So thank you for everyone that touched this. Really, just thank you.
I love all those highlights. Christine, I want to come back to you because you touched on a few things that already were deeply moving or inspiring for you. What's one that stands out that you want to share with us now? And I have to say, DAWDA alluded to this before, but you are actually in graduate school now, and this mattered so much to you that you jumped back in the fray to be in the mix with us, for which we are all deeply grateful. So I hope you had a few highlights to take away with you as you get back to class.
No, of course. And one thing I'll preface is I've been working with the SDG Action Zone since the very beginning in 2019. And very honestly, and I can say this very honestly because I'm no longer working with the UN, that this was my favorite year of the SDG Action Zone by far. And one of my favorite highlights was something that DAWDA, you just mentioned, took one of my favorites, was when Ernest Gibson, the Youth Advisory Board member, Secretary General's Climate Group, said WTF, and at first I got really nervous, but then he said, where's the finance? And I just think when we're talking about rhetoric to reality, we need to talk about how we're actually investing in all of these big transformational changes that we're talking about. In the US, there's a really big 3.5 trillion reconciliation bill that's going on right now, and a lot of companies that are talking about their commitments to the environment and social governance. In DC, they're doing completely different. They're doing something completely different. So what I want to say to businesses, to governments, to just everyone out there is WTF, where's the finance?
WTF is amazing. It's amazing for all the reasons you said, and we all had our hearts skip a beat, and then we were ready and roaring for Ernest. And Nathalie, I want to give you the last word on this because quiet as it's kept, this after show, Action Zone after show, was such inspired by you, was so much inspired by you because it felt really important to sort of have this moment to talk about this, not just job well done, but just the work, like really doing the work, like DAWDA said. So what were your highlights or your main highlight coming out of this incredible 3 days?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. And then I think I'd like to reiterate Ilwad Elman's call to action. It was about informing ourselves, joining movements that are existing. She also spoke about the decades of experience that is already at the grassroots level. And she just called to get involved from wherever we are. And I think that's an important reminder of the power we hold as individuals. And today's unjust and unsustainable systems, they are made of and by people, by individuals. So it takes people to tear them down.
Mic drop. On that note, anything you guys didn't get to say that you want to say just very quickly before we sign off officially?
I'll say something that this moment we're in right now, it is very hard. And so something that I've taken away from this program is it's okay to feel anxious about how big the problems are, but it's been really assuring to see the work that other young people are doing, and the courage that others have and that I inspire to also carry out to take on these big thorny issues of the world. So thank you to everyone who's watched and to all the speakers. Thanks.
It gives you heart. Final words or call to action, Nat?
I'm actually thinking I want to leave the last word to Christina just because of everything that she has just said. But it's bringing the UN to the world and the world to the UN, really showing another side, just looking at this very young team that is there trying to do things differently, accompanied by speakers who are speaking up, not just at our event, but every day in everything that they do. So it's not about the event, but it's about the strong, powerful, and fearless words that are spoken here, and moreover, the action that is happening every day, because we have a few years, it's still years, to go to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And I just cannot imagine a world where we all should never imagine a world where that has not been achieved.
I love it. And just that moment you had there just embodies the spirit of collaboration and partnership of all of this, because we are all in it together, and we need to be lifting each other's work up. And so DAWDA, to you for a last word or a final call to action.
I think, the mayor of Freetown said, given that you're talking about, the work that they're doing in Freetown means it's working. I think, the answer to that is yes, yes, yes. But there's so many stories that also aren't heard that are working and that are existential, and that, people sometimes don't have the luxury of success. It's about survival, and it's about the ability to thrive and provide and really just, match up everyone's full potential and opportunity. And, there is an immense promise in the Sustainable Development Goals and global goals. And it really is about, and Greta said it last year, that, future generations will not forgive or forget our failure if we fail to act. And the reality is failure is not an option here, because it leaves too many people behind. So we have to use every choice, every moment, again, to create the change that we want to see in the world, and make sure that it's sustainable, it's fair, it's just, it's equitable, and that we're not leaving anyone behind, and we're allowing people to fulfill their rights that the world has come together to agree upon and commit to. And that's all I'll say. I mean, I think we just have to get it done. And we can do it.
Thank you to all of you for creating this amazing space and for letting us do the Action Zone after show, because this has been exactly the joyful debriefing space that I hoped for, and I think we all hoped for. And to everybody out there, stay safe and keep fighting the good fight. We love you. And with that, it's a wrap from the 2021 SDG Action Zone.
Woo!
You can snap for that.